All right. Welcome everyone to the stated meeting of the faculty. I appreciate everyone being here. Today we're going to begin with some good news about the college, describe some faculty and alumni excellence, some new support for student, staff, and faculty, and then we're going to mention commencement and pivot, turning to fall planning. One of the bits of big good news is that we have the long-awaited renovation of the new golden cupola that sits atop the library building and the clock tower. They've been completed. There's also a new lighting system here that will help us mark special occasions on the campus. The Brooklyn College Cancer Center has an all-new advisory board. I'm just going to mention 6 people who are part of that advisory council. In the upper left is Dr. Carol Brown, who's the Senior Vice President and Nichols Biondi Chair for Health Equity at Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center. The upper center is Dr. Patrick Borgen, the Chair of Surgery at Humanities Medical Center and Director of the Brooklyn Breast Cancer Program there. On the upper right is Dr. Marilyn Frazier, the CEO of the Arthur Ashe Institute for Urban Health and Professor of Medicine and Public Health at SUNY Downstate. On the lower left is Professor Jason Lewis, the Emily Tao Jackson Chair of Oncology at Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center. Lower center is Dr. Moro Salufu, Chair of the Medicine Department at SUNY Downstate and Director of the Brooklyn Health Disparity Center. And the lower right is Chief Medical Officer Dr. Joanne Waldstreicher, Chief Medical Officer at Johnson & Johnson and Lecturer in Medical Ethics at NYU School of Medicine. This is an impressive crew, and I think our Cancer Center is off to an impressive start. Next, the Society of American Registered Architects has given our new Skurnik Lecture Hall in Ingersoll an award for outstanding design. The renovation for this space was made possible by a gift from Myrna Skurnik in memory of her late husband, Sam. While folks have been mostly off campus, we have continued with a number of important projects, infrastructure projects on campus nonetheless. This includes repairs to the chiller plant infrastructure and renovation of Ingersoll Labs. We've been trying to make good use of the time that folks have been mostly off campus. There is a new Dean's Advisory Council at the Kaplan School of Business with a number of excellent members, all of whom are new. I'm just going to highlight 6 people. Each of these are alums of the college. On the upper left is Lori Klopper. She's at PricewaterhouseCoopers Asset Management Partner. Upper center is Barry Salzberg. He was the Global Chief Executive Officer of Deloitte. The upper right is Sixkat Wadada. She's responsible for data and artificial intelligence business at Avanade. On the lower left is Shanna Middleton, who worked at the International Rescue Committee. She's now a senior advisor for education in the first deputy mayor's office. Jerome Hayden is in the lower center. He's director of the capital consulting team at UBS Investment Bank. And the lower right is Elliot Tannenbaum, who worked for decades at Ernst & Young, and in 2003, he became a managing director at Morgan Stanley. All of these are alums of Brooklyn College, and we're very grateful for their commitment to the Kaplan School. The Kaplan School of Business has also started a new chapter of Beta Gamma Sigma. This photo is before the pandemic, but includes a few of the 13 who were inducted into the Honor Society last fall. Speaking of super students, there was an online electronic financial trading competition that simulated live competition on the trading floor. There were 15 teams across CUNY, and a team from the Kaplan School came out on top across all of CUNY. Very exciting. Since the pandemic began, our Office of Diversity and Equity has developed new specialized training for faculty to address bias against minority students in online classes. It's also enhanced anti-bullying offerings to focus on what happens in the online world. At this point, over 500 people have been trained in these programs, and we expect to be up to 2,000 over the course of the end of this academic year. Luckily, the diversity office is able to reach more people online, more people show up, and there's better audience participation. So it's one of those circumstances in which online training and education is actually helpful. Speaking of equity, we've designated a number of new all-gender restrooms on campus. Now, this is a little different than what we have seen, which is the standard admonition on signs that people can use any single gender restroom that best matches their gender identity. These restrooms are for all genders, and this is a signage on one of those restrooms. We plan to offer an all gender restroom in each building on campus and have them up and running. I believe we have almost all of them prepared by the time we come back. Brooklyn College received a $1 million grant of support for transfer research from the Andrew Mellon Foundation to continue the Mellon Transfer Student Research Program in the Humanities and Social Sciences. Here I'm standing with Distinguished Professor of Political Science, Jean Theo Harris, Professor of Puerto Rican and Latino Studies, Alan Aja, and Professor of English, Joseph Enton, who created the program and raised this financial support. Thank you to all of them for this hard work. This is the last of these 6 people slides that I have, but this is a really exciting one. Actually, all of them are exciting. This one's great. So much good is happening at the Fierstein Graduate School of Cinema under the new leadership of Richard Gladstein. The school has added new advisors to what was already an extraordinary team. I'm just going to mention 6 of them that are on this slide. In the upper left, director and producer Nima Barnett is the first African-American woman to direct a primetime sitcom. She has won a Peabody, an Emmy, and an NAACP Image Award. In the upper center is Emmy and Tony Award-winning director Stephen Daltrey, whose films include Billy Elliot, The Hours, and whose TV credits include The Crown. On the upper right is producer Franklin Leonard, who is one of The Roots' 100 most influential African Americans. He's a juror at Sundance, and he's also a juror for the Penn Center Literary Awards. On the lower left is music supervisor Randall Poster, who has worked on the Grand Budapest Hotel, The Wolf of Wall Street, and Boys Don't Cry, among many others. He has won a Grammy for his work on Boardwalk Empire. In the lower center is Victoria Thomas, who's worked on dozens of high-profile shows and movies, including True Detective, Edward Scissorhands, The Hateful Eight, and Ali. And the lower right is Rachel Morrison. She was the director of photography for Black Panther. She was also the first female to be nominated for an Academy Award for Best Cinematography for the movie Mudbound. This is a terrifically impressive crew, and we are so pleased to have them help advise the Fierstein Graduate School of Cinema. All right, we've got a number of rankings I want to mention. There's an organization called intelligent.com, and it places Brooklyn College as the most affordable quality campus across the whole nation and the best urban campus across the nation. We have a number of high rankings in the top 50 in various programs. And in terms of being the rankings for top schools overall, in New York, there's more than 200 schools, and it ranks us 36th. Across the nation, there's more than 3,000 schools, and we're ranked 86th. So these are terrific rankings. We also have a number of other quick rankings I'll just go through. Academic Influence ranks Brooklyn College the 2nd best public college in New York and 13th in the nation. The Wall Street Journal places Brooklyn College in the top 10 for diversity. Forbes ranks Brooklyn College among the top for the biggest bang for your buck. So it's a value ranking. And then College Consensus ranks Brooklyn College as the 8th best value college in the country. Very good news that 2 Brooklyn College students have been named Goldwater Scholars. On the left, Abiha Kazem plans to obtain an MD, PhD in cancer biology and conduct research on the therapeutically targetable mechanisms of cancer. On the right, Patrick Ihijikrika plans to obtain a PhD in cognitive neuroscience and conduct research on the failures of memory encoding and retrieval. Congratulations to them both. We're going to turn now to some faculty excellence. Professor of Art Derek Adams was inducted into the National Academy of Design, the leading honorary society for visual artists and architects in the United States. He was called one of the most important artists looking at Black life. Additionally, the April 2021 issue of Vogue magazine features his work with the headline, "Derek Adams's Art Celebrates Black Life at its Most Exultant." Professor of Psychology William Esber has won a $470,000 grant from the NIH to research orbitofrontal mediation of competitive cue interactions in reward learning. This is Professor Esber with his lab crew. Professor of Physics, and chair of the Department of Physics, Nicholas Giovanbattista, was part of an international team that proved that water has multiple liquid states. This is a fundamental discovery that explains many of the anomalous properties of water at low temperatures. His findings were published in the prestigious journal Science. Professor of Psychology Cheryl Carmichael was awarded a $400,000 career grant from the NSF to study modeling responsive relationship behavior, the channels of communications, social benefits, and mechanisms of action. 2 Conservatory of Music professors, Malcolm Merriweather and Lakita Mitchell, were nominated for a Grammy Award for the oratorio Sanctuary Road, based on the writings of abolitionist William Still, whose home in Philadelphia was a terminus on the Underground Railroad. Professor Merriweather remarks, quote, "Along with feeling joy at being nominated, Lakita and I are inspired to advance the presence and the recognition of Black and Brown people in classical music," end quote. Congratulations to them. Obie Award-winning international lighting designer and professor of theater, Justin Townsend, was nominated twice for Best Lighting Design for a musical for his incredible work on 2 plays, Moulin Rouge and Jagged Little Pill. This is a scene from Jagged Little Pill. Each of these plays was also nominated for Best Musical overall. Professor of Psychology Laura Rabin has won a $500,000 grant from the NIH to study novel multimodal assessments of practical judgment across the Alzheimer's continuum in order to better predict risk in the elderly. The Caribbean Research Center at Medgar Evers College has bestowed the J.A. George Irish Scholar Activist Award on Professor of Africana Studies Zinga Frazier for her contributions to culture, scholarship, and social activism. Professor of Chemistry Guillermo Girano Navarro was awarded a $400,000 grant from the NIH to study allosteric modulators of polycomb repressive 2 gene repression as potential therapeutics for the development of novel epigenetic cancer therapies. It's a mouthful. Professor of Art Ito Otatigbe was part of a team that designed UVA's Memorial to Enslaved Laborers, dedicated to the 5,000 enslaved people who helped build UVA 2 centuries ago. The Architects magazine, the Architects newspaper, gave the memorial the Project of the Year Award and the award for Best Design for Public and Social Impact. This is the front of the memorial, and Professor Otatigbe's work was on the back part, the exterior of the outer wall of the memorial that looks back on the campus through the photographed eyes. This is from an actual photograph of Isabella Gibbons, a woman owned by UVA professors who, after emancipation, educated freed African Americans. It's gorgeous work. Professor of Biology Theodore Muff has been awarded a $750,000 grant from the National Institute of Food and Agriculture to study the duckweed microbiome for plant health and sustainability of natural resources. Professor of Psychology Louise Hainline has won $600,000 from the NIH and the New York State Education Department to help train students in STEM fields in neuroscience and to support underrepresented and low-income students in STEM and pre-health fields. Here she is doing what she does best, and that is encouraging her students' research. We'll turn now to a little of alumni achievements. Dr. Lester Young, the class of '73, was named the Chancellor of the New York State Board of Regents. He's the first African American to be elected to this position, which oversees all educational activities in the state and sets policy at SUNY as well as the New York State Education Department. Tarika Barrett, who earned a bachelor's degree in political science in 1996, has been appointed the new CEO of Girls Who Code, whose mission is to close the gender gap in tech and build the world's largest pipeline of future female engineers. And Robert Jones Jr., graduating in '06 and '08 in creative writing with a master's degree, recently released his debut novel, The Prophets, which became an instant New York Times bestseller. The Guardian writes, quote, "It is not hyperbole to say that The Prophets evokes the best of Toni Morrison while being its own distinct and virtuosic work. It is hard to believe this is a debut," end quote. The New York Times says, quote, "What fiery kindness, that ending, this book, a book I entered hesitantly, cautiously. I exited anew, something in me unloosed, running," end quote. Wow, the reviews of this book have just been eye-watering. How wonderful for Robert and how wonderful that we are associated with him. We'll turn now to new support we have for students. We've got a lot. We've got new support in mental health through federal stimulus funding. Our personal counseling department is hiring 4 new mental health counselors focused on trauma, bereavement, oppression, harm reduction, and risk management. This is a picture of Naomi Carey, one of our new mental health counselors. The admissions office is regularly hosting virtual freshman Tuesdays, virtual transfer student Thursdays, and many virtual information sessions for graduate students. The registrar's office has hosted a number of Zoom sessions as well to assist students with degree works, getting registered, etc. The financial aid office has offered open Zoom sessions on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. for months. The Student Affairs and Communications are developing new online orientations for incoming students and their families. Academic Advisement has offered over 1,200 individual academic advisement appointments for new and continuing students, as well as specialized appointments for sophomores, transfer students, and we're offering new online study halls and library services as well. You know that since the pandemic began, we've enhanced access to our food pantry, enhanced access to healthcare via telehealth, offered computer devices to students in need, and opened a computer lab on campus. But I'm also very pleased to report that we've been able to secure philanthropic gifts to provide new funds in direct support for our students. We've raised more than $2 million in direct support in the form of completion grants, continuation grants for students, and emergency grants for students. We have a new presidential advisory committee for staff. Last semester, staff told us they wanted more engagement at the college, more of a greater voice with leadership at the college. So in response, we created a presidential advisory committee for staff. It has about 25 members. It meets on a monthly basis. And there is a leadership team working to establish a charter and the direction of the group that includes Jesus Perez, Anna Belyayeva, and Afritaya Green. Afritaya, I'm not sure where the emphasis goes in the name, Afritaya Green. Thank you all to them for their service, and they're going to help us identify support for staff. We have new support for faculty research. The Associate Provost's office is running ongoing writing and research boot camps for faculty at the school level in HSS. There are research roundtables to stimulate faculty discussions about research. The Kaplan School of Business has a weekly notice that is sent out on recognizing faculty research, and we're improving how we collect information about faculty research and how we recognize our faculty for these accomplishments. We have a fairly closed campus, which continues to be pretty closed. But obviously, classes continue online, and we've done a lot to support faculty in their teaching of late. For one, we've used some of the federal stimulus funding to hire research assistants and peer tutors in large online classes to support faculty teaching. Kudos to Alan and Ann, who came up with this idea, and we are the only college across CUNY that is using these federal stimulus funds in this creative way to support faculty. The Center for Teaching and Learning has also expanded its offerings from training and instructional design to the development of anti-racist programming. We've got more than 150 faculty have participated in the BC Go program or the course at the Center for Teaching and Learning, and 185 Brooklyn College faculty participated in the School for Professional Studies online teaching course as well. We have appointed recently 5 new faculty mentors, 1 for each school. Their role is to mentor junior faculty members to achieve tenure and promotion through excellence in research and creative work, teaching, and service. They are, in the upper left, Maria Sharon Del Rio, the Associate Dean of the School of Education and the professor and former program coordinator in the School Counseling Graduate Program. Upper center is Stephanie Jensen Moulton, the director of the Hitchcock Institute for Studies in American Music and professor in the Conservatory of Music in the School of Visual Media and Performing Arts. Upper right is Rosamund King, director of the Ethel Wolf Institute for Humanities and professor of English in the School of Humanities and Social Sciences. Lower left is James Lynch, the chair of the Department of Business Management in the Kaplan School of Business. And the lower right is Peter Lipke, chair of the Department of Biology in the School of Natural and Behavioral Sciences. Thank you all for your service. Wanted to mention commencement. It will be on May 27th at 10 a.m. On the left, Fatima Goss Graves is the president and CEO of the National Women's Law Center. She'll receive an honorary degree from the college. She's co-founder of the Time's Up Legal Defense Fund, which supports low-income individuals who face sexual harassment or retaliation to make the workplace safe, fair, and dignified for all. On the right, Dr. Joanne Waldstreicher, Chief Medical Officer at Johnson & Johnson, who's also on the advisory board for the Cancer Center, helped develop the COVID-19 vaccine for Johnson & Johnson. She graduated summa cum laude from Brooklyn College, went on to Harvard Medical School. We're excited to welcome her home in May. Looking ahead to the future and next academic year. Remember when we used to assemble like this on campus? It's a beautiful sight, and I hope we can get there next academic year. I want to start with a brief note on the budget. About a year ago, we were facing very dire predictions of a possible 20% cut to our budget for this year that might be ongoing, that the projected shortfall in tax revenue across the state came out much less dire than were the predictions. So a possible 20% cut became a 5% cut. We are still facing decreased enrollment and budget shortfalls, however, but we do have new federal stimulus funds that many of you talked about earlier, James talked about earlier. They remain somewhat unclear, but it is clear that they are going to be able to be applied more broadly. They will help balance this and next year's budget. This is one-time money, and it is not for ongoing commitments because it cannot be used in an ongoing fashion. It's just a one-time source of funds. The next year's budget is not yet finalized. It was due on April 1st. Apparently they are close. The one House bills from both the Senate and the Assembly worked to close the TAP gap to pay the escalating costs at CUNY and to provide more operating funds and to stop tuition increases. I really want to thank all of you who have lobbied in favor of increased funding for CUNY and Brooklyn College. I know that has been an enormous effort that many of you have dedicated yourselves to of late. In terms of fall planning, here's what we do know. The COVID vaccines are safe, very safe, and highly effective. Vaccination is the best way to protect you and your family from infection, hospitalization, and death. And the truth is that vaccination and herd immunity would help us get back to normal on campus. These are things that we do know. Staff, students, and faculty who have been surveyed and returned reports to us feel mixed about returning. Some are desperate to get back. Some don't want to go back to campus at all. And many are somewhere in between. CUNY has worked on and apparently negotiated with the union a remote work policy. We expect it to be issued shortly. It will help us understand under what circumstances the staff may work from home, may work in person, and the details of that we're not privy to at this time, but we expect that policy to be issued shortly. It is also true, and we know this, that we're going to have to follow the CDC, New York State, New York City, and CUNY guidelines and mandates, and it's likely that these will evolve over time. Certainly they have over the past year. So that's what we do know. Here's what we don't know. We don't know whether CUNY will require vaccinations or testing to enter campus in the fall. We don't know whether or not Brooklyn College at any time will be able to offer COVID vaccinations. We don't know what the percentage of our population will be vaccinated by the fall. Of those who were surveyed and responded to the survey, a majority of them report that they are vaccinated or plan to be vaccinated. We do not know what we're going to do about those who refuse to be vaccinated, or those, for that matter, who violate rules once they do get on campus, safety rules and protocols. We don't know how staff, students, and faculty members' preferences will evolve as we approach the fall. We don't know what food the dining hall will have in the fall. There are lots of very practical questions that we have not been able to decide because we don't know what the situation is going to be like in the fall. We're also making predictions. So some things we know, some things we don't know. We have some predictions. We predict that most of the Brooklyn College population will likely be vaccinated by the fall. We are certainly hoping that that is true. We hope it's 100%. We predict that social distancing and masks will likely continue to be mandated on campus by CUNY, by the city and state in the fall. We predict that gatherings will likely remain limited, and that's going to limit programs that we're able to have in the fall. We predict that some staff will work from home, others will work on campus, others will work a mixture of both. We have not seen the remote work policy. That's going to provide some guidance for us in terms of what we can do. And we will likely continue to be understaffed in terms of custodians on campus and facilities personnel, which certainly has implications for how we are able to return. We're engaged in a number of activities right now to plan for the fall. One of the biggest is to look at space assessment, how many people can safely gather in various rooms, various spaces across the campus, assuming 6 feet of social distancing is mandated, assuming a smaller amount is mandated, etc. We are prioritizing key classroom spaces by department. So departments are, we are working with departments on a department by department basis. We will get to you if we haven't talked to you so far, trying to identify, are there any crucial spaces that the department needs in order to teach in a certain way, and trying to prioritize preparation in those key classroom spaces. We're also testing air quality and ventilation across the campus. I know this is an issue of extraordinary concern, given that this is an airborne illness or virus, rather. We're also trying to assist our essential workers on campus with obtaining vaccination appointments. We're revising a comprehensive reentry plan, which we developed last year. And in doing so, we're consulting with the Reentry Review Board, which includes research faculty, it includes representatives of the PSC, staff, and deans. We're also going to consult when we get something together with faculty, staff, and student leadership. And we understand that these revised reentry plans will be due no longer at the end of May, but sometime in June. We'll continue to share with you updates as those dates or the information required within the report changes. We are planning for most classes to be online. We issued guidance to the chairs a number of weeks ago, requesting no more than 30% of classes in person. So we are planning for most classes to be online. Others will be on campus or hybrid classes, and we're realizing that we may need to convert classes from in-person or to online, or from hybrid to online, depending on conditions on the ground at the time. We're also working to enhance the quality of pedagogy in online courses. Where we need to continue to provide online courses, we have to do so in a way that's most effective and that tries to attend to best practices in online pedagogy. We are, your health and safety, the health and safety of our community has always been my top priority, the top priority of my administration. This is Carrie Sadovnik. She is the director of our environmental health and safety team. She advises on safety protocols, cleaning and disinfection, ventilation, labs, equipment distribution, hybrid classes. She is part of a team that drafts guidelines and trainings on respirators, PPE, and response protocols. And she and her team are literally inspecting and surveying every room and space on the campus. I know that people are particularly concerned about ventilation, so I wanted to spend just a moment on that before we close. There are no universal building standards on ventilation to address the challenges of COVID, much as we wish that there were. On our campus, our newer buildings have central HVAC. For those of you who don't know what HVAC is, it's heating, ventilation, and air conditioning. These include filtration. So the newer buildings that have central HVAC systems with filtration units have good air quality. Our older buildings that have smaller ventilation units are being upgraded with MERV 13 filters. They have historically had about MERV 8 filters. For those of you who don't know, these are filtration devices to try to enhance air quality. In areas that do not have mechanical ventilation, that is, no smaller ventilation units or central HVAC, we're improving the air quality through repairs, operational changes, exhaust fans, air filtration, disinfection units, etc., or we are reducing occupancy. In other words, either we can improve the air quality or we're going to have to reduce occupancy in these spaces. And we're going space by space across the campus to make those assessments. Last thing I want to mention is that CUNY Central has hired an indoor air quality consultant to review ventilation across CUNY. We're not sure what that will look like. There will be guideline emerge assessment. Aware of that. The question we often get asked is, what do you do? I would say the first and main thing is to get vaccinated. Starting today, April 6th, all New Yorkers 16 years old and older are eligible to be vaccinated. Everyone on this call is eligible to be vaccinated. It is no longer the very painful, stressful thing that it was to try to obtain an appointment. It is an easier, it is still a challenge, can be still a challenge for many, but it is something that is doable. Everyone is eligible on this call. Please get vaccinated. Other thing I want to say is don't let your guard down. The reality is we're all ready for the pandemic to be over. We all want summer to be here and to not have to mask up. But the reality is that New York City has an extremely high risk of exposure, according to the CDC. Positive cases in New York City are up 67% over the past 14 days. It is true that deaths and hospitalizations are down, but the number of infections are increasing in New York City. Everyone, vaccination means safety. Please get vaccinated. I would also ask people to be flexible, try to remain flexible about fall course modality. We both want to, we're trying to balance here. We both want to We care about greatly faculty members' preferences, students' preferences for modality, and best practices for their pedagogy in the departments that they have. We also know that we have to prioritize safety of the community, and we may need to change modality of the classes. As we receive guidance, we're going to share it with you. There has not been a lot, but we're going to communicate with you whatever guidance and relevant information that we get as soon as we get it. I would ask that you be compassionate and patient and understanding. Every one of us, including all of you, obviously, especially our students, especially our staff, everyone is working under challenging circumstances. Really want to thank you for this. We are grateful for your good faith and goodwill at this moment. Just want to end with a plea. If you have not made an appointment, please get vaccinated. Please get vaccinated. It is the way that we are going to move toward normalcy. As a community, it will help protect you and your loved ones from hospitalization, infection, and potential death from this deadly disease. Please get vaccinated. It's something you can do for yourself and your family and your community and the college. Thank you, everyone, and happy spring to you all.